Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Oh, just some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
Halloween.
The Scream franchise has a special place in my heart, since Scream 4 is the movie I credit with getting me into horror movies, oversaturation and all. It wasn't the first scary movie I saw, or even the first scary movie I enjoyed, but I remember having sleepovers with my friends every weekend back in middle school, watching whatever scary movie was on Netflix at the time, and Scream 4 is the movie that started it all, turning me into the horror fan I am today. And a big reason I was so interested in the franchise as a whole was because of its titular villain, the Ghostface. Unlike many other horror movies, the main villain isn't a single person who just refuses to die. Ghostface is more of a mantle taken up by different people, usually in groups of two, but as time went on and new movies started coming out, I thought to myself, who is the most powerful Ghostface? But then I realized that the main baddies are just normal people, and impressive feats of strength, speed, and durability are few and far between. What really separates them are their motivations and how they go about achieving their goals. So, I'll be ranking them by how successful they were and the pairs they appear in, since most share a common end goal, and even the ones that don't still work together for the whole movie aside from the final act. I'll also be taking their kill counts and any impressive feats into account. And I'll only be ranking the Ghostfaces from Scream 1 through 6, so no Danny Johnson from Dead by Daylight or MTV's Ghostfaces or any other iteration of the character.
What's up?
Keep in mind that this list is pretty subjective, since success is a term I use loosely here since, well, they all die. And dead last, I have Debbie Loomis and Mickey Altieri. Although Mama Loomis and Mickey did up their predecessor's kill count, they ultimately failed their respective goals. Mickey actually wanted to get caught and have some big trial where he'd blame the movies and somehow get off on the charges in the end. So, full-blown crazy town over here.
I'm gonna blame the movies. It's pretty cool, huh? It hasn't been done before. You see, this is just the beginning, a prelude to the trial. That's where the real fun is, because these days it's all about the trial. Can't you see it?
But he was only being used by Mrs. Loomis to get some killing done, and she shot him when she didn't need him anymore, planning to blame him for the killings. Mrs. Loomis had a very simple revenge plan to kill Sydney for killing her son Billy, who tried to kill her first.
Mine is just good old-fashioned revenge. You killed my son. And now I kill you, and I can't think of anything more rational.
They don't really have any impressive showings. The most notable thing they do is kill horror movie enthusiast Randy by ambushing him in broad daylight. They also have the usual Ghostface silliness, slipping and falling every time they give chase. Mickey's fought off by Sydney for a bit, and Debbie lets her get away after Sydney hits her with a...
Isn't Mickey supposed to be dead?
Both of them being shot and killed, Mickey never gets his famous trial, and Debbie never avenges her son, leaving me to believe that they're the most unsuccessful Ghostfaces.
If you hang up on me, you'll die just like your mother.
I know Roman's like universally loved, so just hear me out. Roman Bridger is the only person to become Ghostface solo dolo style. He was abandoned by his mom, Maureen Prescott, when she started a new life in Woodsboro with her husband and daughter, Sydney Prescott, making him Sydney's half-brother.
Welcomed me with open arms, but she had a new life and a new name, Maureen Prescott. You were the only child she claimed, Sydney. She shut me out in the cold forever. Her own son.
To take his revenge, he filmed Maureen's promiscuous behavior, including her affairs with Cotton Weary and Billy's dad. He used this to push Billy into killing her mom along with Stu Mocker. His actions practically kicked off the entire franchise. Because of all this, he was going to be way higher on the list, but I decided to only consider their actions as Ghostface, and he took on the role 5 years after he convinced Billy to kill Sid's mom. He ties with Scream 2's Ghostfaces and kills, but is much more physically capable than the two groups that came before him. He's also the first Ghostface to think of wearing a bulletproof vest, being able to shrug off multiple rounds to the chest. Despite his better physicals and better planning, he's still outsmarted by Sydney in the final act and is finally shot in the head by Dewey. His goal is to kill Sydney, but just like the others who wanted revenge on her, he failed to get it.
Hello, Detective Bailey. I've got one question for you. What's your favorite scary movie?
Rounding off the bottom half, I have the newest Ghostfaces, and the only trio, Quinn, Ethan, and Detective Bailey. Richie's family had their own revenge plot, planned to kill Sam for killing Richie, who tried to kill her first. They're some of the more brutal killers, best shown in their opening kills. They decapitate Greg off screen and leave him in the fridge, then stab Jason so many times his guts start popping out. I'd say they're some of the best planners in the franchise. With help of their dad, who's on the police force, they were able to pull off the best fake death by swapping out Quinn's body with another one. Quinn was also the one that started the rumors about Sam being the villain of Scream 5, which still affected her going into Scream 6. They stole Sam's records from a therapist to add to their narrative, and also built a shrine to the past killers to lure the group there. Their dad's position as a cop also allowed him to shift blame onto Kirby, making Sam and Tara distrust her for long enough for him to shoot her. On the physical side of things, they have some decent showings, like moving out of the way before getting shot on 2 separate occasions, picking up Annika with a single arm, and nearly killing Gale, even after getting shot twice. They definitely have their fair share of blunders though, like failing to kill Tara despite having to jump on her, and getting absolutely handled by Chad. But in the end, they wanted revenge, and they failed to kill Sam and Tara. But with a slightly higher kill count, decent physicality, better planning, and more brutality, I think this group was a solid middle of the road.
You listen, you little bitch. You hang up on me again, I'll gut you like a fish, understand?
In third place, we have the duo that started it all, Billy Loomis and Stu Macher. I don't know if it's a hot take to not have them at first, but I think it's a solid spot for them, all things considered. They do have the lowest kill count in the series, securing only 5 kills. They're also the goofiest of all the killers, showing off their slip-inside shoes every time they're on screen. They get knocked down pretty often, whether it be kicks, freezer doors, or the all-powerful nut shot. And not too many notable feats aside from Stu fighting off Sydney after he was stabbed multiple times. I guess you could count how they strung up Casey on a tree and their principal on the football goalpost as feats towards their lifting strength, but that's about it. But to give credit where credit's due, they're the ones who made Ghostface. Although it was Roman who sent Billy on this path, it was Billy's idea to kill again.
You want to play psycho killer? Can I be the helpless victim? Okay, let's see. No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel.
They started the rule of 2, which would go on to be used by nearly all copycat killers that came after them, constantly trying to one-up the one that came before. And even though they failed to kill Sydney and frame her dad, their actions would still affect Sydney for decades to come, leaving her to fight for her life long after they had died. And yes, I did mention how I'd only consider their actions while they were killers. I think it's fair to say that their actions as Ghostface led to this. In the end, Billy's shot dead, and Stu's electrocuted when Sydney drops a TV on his face. It's possible Stu survives this. It's a pretty common fan theory that even the latest movie addresses. Shaggy himself, Matthew Lillard, confirmed that he'd like to come back as Stu someday, but hasn't gotten any calls. I wouldn't hold my breath though, since he has a 3-movie contract as FNAF's William Afton.
Who played the dumb bitch at the beginning of Stab 1 who answers the phone and gets carved up by the killer?
At runner-up, we have Scream 5's Richie Kirsch and Amber Freeman. I promise I didn't rank them this high just because I'm in love with Mikey Madison.
Welcome to Act 3.
Even though they're one of the lower kill counts of the killers, they make them count by killing 2 legacy characters. Sheriff Judy from Scream 4 when she gets jumped in the middle of the day, and Dewey when Amber slices his torso vertically even after being shot 2 times. I don't know, man. Dewey's been through so much, I didn't think Amber's 5'3" self would be the one to do him in. Their goal was to start a new string of murders to inspire a new movie since the latest ones had gone to shit. They plan to bring old faces back to the franchise along with new ones, including Billy's daughter, Sam Carpenter. They found out she was and lured her back to Woodsboro by brutalizing her little sister, Tara. The new murders brought Gale Weathers back into town and got Dewey to agree to help Sam, leading to his aforementioned death. His death then brought Sydney back, which was all part of their plan. After they revealed who they were, Gale and Sydney came to the house to help and fought Amber, who actually held her own very well. Unfortunately, she didn't hold a candle to the OGs, and her big plans went up in flames. Reggie's stabbed by Sam when she finds a knife on the ground, like a bunch of times, then is shot in the head. Amber survives her burns and gunshot wounds, but also gets shot in the head. Gail promised not to write about the experience, wanting them to die in anonymity. But it's Gail Weathers, so she does end up writing about it. She wasn't able to sell the movie rights though, and had it become a successful movie, I easily would have had them at the top spot. But their plan to reunite different generations of the Woodsboro murders after Ghostface's 11-year hiatus was nearly flawless. They had some meaningful kills, and came oh so very close to achieving their goal.
I'm gonna slit your eyelids in half so you don't blink when I stab you in the face.
I wasn't foreshadowing to Scream 4's position in my intro, just hear me out again. At the top spot, I have Jill Roberts and Charlie Walker, but obviously Jill carries here. Similar to Richie and Amber, Jill and Charlie start killing 11 years after the previous killer had already died. Jill is Sydney's cousin and was jealous of Sydney's fame both around the world and within her family. She was all anyone ever talked about. She had multiple movies based on her life, wrote a book, and was known as a strong survivor. Jill wanted that fame too, so by manipulating Charlie, they started killing again, scoring the highest body count of any Ghostface so far. They're also, in my opinion, the most menacing Ghostface we've seen.
But if you want to be in the hospital, I'd be happy to put you there. In the morgue!
Jill puts the work in on Dewey and Sydney, even throwing her into a cabinet. She takes a cranked up defibrillator to the head which only knocks her out for a bit. A shock that only lasts a split second at 2,700 volts is usually fatal. She took 1,000 volts to the noggin for 3 whole seconds and still didn't die, making it the best durability feat in the entire series. Like Mrs. Loomis in the second movie, she gets rid of her partner in crime when she doesn't need him anymore, killing him with a stab to the heart and planning to frame him and her ex-boyfriend as the killers. And of all killers yet, she came the closest to actually killing Sydney. After believing Sydney was dead, she hurt herself to make it seem like she was the victim, and had she finished Sydney off, she definitely would have gotten away with it, since no one suspected Jill to be the killer. She did get her 15 minutes of fame though, with cameras flashing in her face and even being called a hero for surviving the encounter. Call me biased if you want, but with the highest kill count, some of the goriest kills, and the best execution, I believe Jill Roberts was the most successful Ghostface. Thanks for watching through to the very end of the video. I want to thank PlayCattle for making today's thumbnail. His Twitter will be down in the description as per usual. Today's video came out a little later than I originally hoped, but I'm just trying to average at least one video per week. So feel free to put your own Ghostface rankings down in the comments and make sure to subscribe so you can watch next week's video. That'll be another ranking, but this time on Dead by Daylight's Killer's Canon Strength. So make sure to turn on notifications to see when that one's up. See you guys later.